Hi, I'm Dan Hilton, Research Manager with Housing Link, and welcome to a rental housing brief webinar, this one on Units Affordable by AMI. Housing Link is a Minneapolis-based nonprofit with a mission of improving people's lives by providing them with information to expand their affordable rental choices. Since December of 2018, we've been publishing the Rental Housing Brief, a monthly series of reports on the state of rental housing, which now features reports for both the cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul. If you're interested in a broad overview of the entire report, you'll find a link to a video that does just that in the description below and on our website. This video is specifically going to cover the charts on page 4 of the report, the percent of rental vacancies affordable by income level. For purposes of the discussion today, we're going to be looking just at the Minneapolis report, but note that everything I cover pertains to the same data in the St. Paul report, as well as anywhere else Housing Link may publish this type of analysis. So, about housing affordability. Anyone who's engaged in affordable housing work is probably familiar with the 30% of income benchmark for affordability. That is to say, housing is considered affordable if it costs no more than 30% of a household's income. Any more than that, and the household is said to be cost-burdened in terms of how much they pay for their housing. The American Community Survey from the U.S. Census actually does a really good job of rolling in all the associated housing costs and publishing a figure representing the number of households by type of tenure, that is to say, renters as opposed to owners, that fall into different brackets by affordability. But as you may know, these figures are only generally published in an aggregated form and don't offer a lot of flexibility and analysis for the general user. One thing we realized in looking at a lot of other housing studies is that very often the measure of affordability is based upon contract rent. That is to say, the rent before utilities. And in doing that, we feel that there's a real danger of understating the actual cost burden on families. As a result, we decided to incorporate likely utility cost into an analysis of affordability. We first employed this methodology in our annual Minnesota Housing Measures series we published with the McKnight Foundation. Here you could see the changing percent of all private market rental vacancies that are affordable to households making 60% of the area median income by year for the entire state of Minnesota since 2012. For the rental housing briefs, we decided to further break down the levels of affordability to look at the rents affordable to families making various levels of the area median income, or AMI, specifically 30%, 50%, 60%, 80%, and 100% of the area median income. The result of this analysis was pretty eye-opening for us. We knew that there were not a lot of rental homes affordable to families making 60% of AMI, but we were surprised to see such a striking drop-off from 60% to 50%. In this report, what we're saying is that in August of 2019, 39% of all vacancies posted in Minneapolis were affordable to families making 60% of the area median, but only 11% were affordable to 50% AMI. It really highlights the razor-thin margin of income by which housing costs move from affordable to non-affordable, and we feel really validates this approach of making sure we include all housing costs when possible. So the methodology, how do we come up with this figure? First, I'll remind you that Housing Link rent data is based on actual rental vacancies in the private market. That is to say, advertised listings. We don't survey occupied units, so as such, we're definitely picking up newly constructed units that hit the market, as well as recently turned over units that might re-enter the market at a higher price point. That said, a unit that has been occupied for 5 years without the rent going up doesn't do anyone who's looking for an apartment now any good. Our data is quite literally what a renter is facing in the open market. But again, those are net rent figures and don't include utilities, but we'll get to the utilities part in a minute. Knowing the rents as we do, how do we determine what is affordable? That's what we want to look at first. Well, the actual affordable housing costs that we look at are based on a methodology created by Minnesota Housing and the Metropolitan Council that use incomes by family size provided by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development and assume 1.5 people per bedroom and 1 per studio. So once we know the estimated family size that would be likely to occupy a unit of a given number of bedrooms, we just use 30% of that income in a month as the limit of affordable rent. Next, we need to make an estimate of likely utility costs. Well, as part of its subsidized voucher assistance program, our region's metropolitan HRA estimates reasonable utility costs by bedroom size and type of structure. That is to say, multifamily apartments versus single-family homes, duplexes, townhomes, etc. Well, Housing Link's rent data has bedroom size and building type, so we can use these matrices. But there are different fuel sources depending on utility type. For heat, you can have gas heat or electric heat, same for cooking and so on. And also, in some instances, we know renters are responsible for utilities, and in some instances, the landlord pays. So how are we to figure that into our analysis? Funny you should ask. First, being a vacancy listing service, we actually ask landlords when they're advertising a vacancy what the fuel source is for the utilities in that vacancy and who's responsible for paying. Now, we don't have that information for all our listings, but we do have it for enough that we're able to draw some conclusions about the likely fuel source and who is responsible depending on the profile of a given type of unit. We can reasonably expect a landlord to cover heat costs in a 1-bedroom multifamily unit, for example. So, based on a building type and number of bedrooms in a vacancy, we know whether a resident is likely to be responsible for each type of utility, and if so, how much they are likely to pay. That means we have a utility cost to add to our listed rent, which gets us a lot closer to the true cost of rental housing that a family is facing. And if that gross rent is less than what we've determined as an affordable rent, we can conclude that that unit is affordable. And so once we figured all this out for a family making median income, it's a pretty simple matter to say, is that rent affordable to a family making 80% of AMI, or 60%, or 50%, or 30%? And voila, the percent of rental vacancies affordable by income level you see each month in the Minneapolis and St. Paul rental housing briefs. If you're still here with me at the end, thanks so much for your interest in Housing Link. Please visit our data and research page on the website and see what else we're up to. You can explore other current and past projects as well as sign up for updates when we publish new work. Thanks for watching.